Biggest rivalry in football, the Reds versus the Red Devils. This Sunday, Fortress Anfield. We are the upper tier, brought to you by the Dynamo Podcast Network. Available on every single platform on this planet right now. And as Fabrizio Romano would say, here we go. And joining me today, I have my partner in crime, Peter Hart from the Superior Comic Show. I'm joined by Mark Hogan, already been on the podcast. Got a great reaction, Mark, to your episode.
Yes,
Ryan Marr back again, who's already been on the show. Man United avid fan. And we're joined today by Darren Cullen, making his debut on the show, if you like, with a beautiful background there. That's it. So we're supposed to kick off the show. This is our Liverpool versus Man United preview coming this Sunday. And to kick it off, I suppose we should talk about the form of both teams. I suppose we should start with Liverpool at the moment. Darren, what's your thinking on Liverpool at the moment and the form they're in at the minute?
Well, it's not great, is it? To be honest. West Brom, I don't think I've been more upset watching Liverpool as I was watching the West Brom game. It was Rodgers' era. It was horrific. You just knew they were going to score, you know. The longer it went on, the longer we went breaking them down, you just knew it was coming. And I was good when it came, but I prepared myself that they were going to score, you know, and unfortunately it was right. And then with the Newcastle fiasco as well, unbelievably bad. And Klopp looks rattled. He's coming out with all sorts of nonsense about United's penalties instead of just coming out and saying we weren't good enough, you know. And I don't know. It's worrying anyway.
What's your feeling in terms of the Villa game? Do you think we can take anything out of that? I know we were playing a bunch of kids and they gave a great account of themselves. And for those guys, it must have been brilliant to be playing against the likes of Mane and Salah and stuff like that. It's like, you know, childhood dreams, really, you know. But you reckon, like, I mean, did you see sparks of stuff there when Thiago came on and started pulling the strings, and where we like kind of back to our old way?
Come here, look. At the end of the day, Niall, they're playing against 16, 17, 18-year-olds. Thiago's a Champions League winner. You know what I mean? I reckon, you know, any half-decent player is going to look good against them, you know? I wouldn't be too much into it, put it that way. Yeah,
I got the feeling watching that game that, like, we didn't really want to put a cricket score up on the scoreboard, that we were respecting the situation, really.
Well, I can get that as well. You know, you don't want to leave these kids scarred, you know what I mean? Yeah. But at the same time, you can't take anything away from that goal. One pass, the high line exposed. Your kid, Barry, came in and bang, goal. Nothing, you know what I mean? I think we should have dealt with it better personally, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it was sort of the build up from Hendo, really, and then it sort of exposed Reece Williams a little bit, didn't it, at the back, really? So
Williams wouldn't be the most pacey, you know. I know he's only a kid, but put it this way, it'll be a whole different ball game Sunday when you've got Martial, Rashford, Bruno Fernandes, and the Villa kids, you know, and that's kind of my worry at the moment. I'm not going to lie, you know.
Yeah, Peter, what's your thinking at the moment in terms of form? I know you've been fairly vocal on the podcast about Liverpool's form at the moment, especially the front three.
I completely agree with what was just said. I think it looks like we've run out of ideas and run out of steam, and we can't even blame injuries anymore. Let's be honest, you can say we're missing Van Dijk, but Van Dijk was there for the 7-2 thrashing that Villa gave us. You know what I mean? So we can't blame it all on that. I don't know what's happened. The front three seem lacking in confidence, lacking in passion, and nothing seemed to gel anymore. It seems almost like the champions win
too many all the time.
Yeah. I suppose for this one being, like, you know, it's still the biggest game of the season in reality, and because of the rivalry, and especially now with the situation with the table and the resurgence of United. But the form book really goes out the window, doesn't it, really, with these games? You know what I mean? We seen it earlier in the season there with Arsenal and Chelsea. Chelsea were playing some great football. Arsenal were in the doghouse, and the next thing Arsenal were out put them to the sword. So the form book really doesn't say, and especially this year with COVID and no fans and all that kind of stuff, you know. So yeah, I think sort of as fans, we'd be a little bit hesitant going into Sunday, but we know that the quality is there to produce a performance on any given day. And there's no bigger day in the football calendar than that day at Anfield for us guys as Liverpool fans.
The no fans is going to be a great leveler for United, you know. It's no atmosphere, no intimidation. It's going to be a serious leveler for United on Sunday.
Yeah. They're going to have their 12th man in the referee, and we're going to be missing our 12th man in the cup.
It's that great from a Liverpool perspective, ready?
Yeah. So then let's move on to United and bring the boys in. So, Mark, what you're thinking at the moment, sorry, in terms of United and their form and how it stacks up?
Look, we've kind of been inconsistent a bit, to be honest with you. Martial hasn't really been on form lately. He hasn't been scoring, but when strikers aren't scoring, you expect him to be at least assisting and stuff like that. And he hasn't been at all, Rashford's been the same. He's been inconsistent as well. Fernandes, to me, he's looked kind of tired the last few games, and we spoke about it last week. He's been carrying the team for a year. It's going to catch up on him. He obviously got booked for dissent. You can see he was frustrated against Burnley, but I suppose that's the type of game Burnley plays, to frustrate your opposition. Like the last few Premier League games, we won by one goal. A lot of clubs that win the league, scrape out them results, and we seem to be doing that a lot lately,
But that tends to be the sign of like a winning team, and a Premier League winning team, when you can scrape out those results. I mean, we had a number of them last season, a number of those 1-0s or last minute winners, or, where we came back to secure the 3 points that made a huge difference in terms of the table and give us that lead, Ryan, anything to add to that? What you're thinking at the moment in terms of United and their form at the moment? I think when we last spoke, it was ollie out. And now it's like it couldn't be any better for United now at the moment, in fairness.
Yeah, no, it seems like that, all right. If you look at the way form is going between the two teams, there's probably no better time for United to play Liverpool if you're going on form, because like the lads mentioned, the lads mentioned there a couple of minutes ago, it was Klopp looks frustrated. He's given out loads of ridiculous excuses, all aimed at United, all aimed at referees, penalties, all sorts. United have seemed to got their finger out now ever since the Champions League exit as well, which obviously it's a big loss to the club, big loss to the fans. But I think form-wise, we are looking good. Mark said there about Martial and Rashford at the moment, they're not really doing it, and Bruno does look tired, but I think it was like you said there, Niall, as well. I think form goes out the window in this sort of game. It's one of the biggest rivalries in football in the world, and I think that plays a huge factor with it as well. But with no fans there, what sort of difference is it going to make as well? But I'd be definitely, not like recent seasons, I'm actually looking forward to the game, because I can definitely think we can put it at Liverpool on Sunday. I know Anfield, it's a tough place in recent years to come away with points, but I definitely think it's the right time for us to play Liverpool, because we've been top of the league, but only by 3 points. But if you can stretch that, then you're looking at them. We maybe can compete come the end of the season. So fingers crossed now that it does go the way we plan, and hopefully it's a decent game, not like one of these games Sky build up to be like a Champions League final, ends up being absolute dirt, 1-1 draw or something like that.
Yeah, so, well, it's an interesting context, because if you think about it, Liverpool's home form has been pretty decent, but United's away form has been exceptional.
It's been impeccable this year. Yeah, United's away form has been brilliant. And like you said there as well, what Mark said, United scraping through games by a goal, or maybe 2 goals in some games, and that's where champions are made. Because look at you last season, how many games did you scrape goals in the last 10 minutes to win big games and add points to the board, and it paid dividends in the end? But look at the difference between in the 12 months from last year to this year. United were sitting 6th. How many points behind Liverpool? 20 odd points behind Liverpool. Fast forward 12 months and we're 3 points ahead going into Anfield on Sunday. So this game is absolutely massive.
Yeah, good stuff. So then I suppose when we look at the match itself, where do we see the the key battles on the pitch in terms of who matches up to who. And I mean, obviously it's difficult at the moment because we don't really know what the lineups are going to be, especially from our side, because there's talk that they're playing down Matip being available, but I get the feeling that's just Klopp playing the Solskjaer games, really. You know what I mean? I'm not too sure.
20 minutes now, for God's sake.
Yeah.
We fix that fella. He's not good enough.
He'll be available for 5 minutes and then he'll be off.
Yeah.
And
you could say the same about Boyle for United. You know what I mean? He's coming into a bit of form, and the man just has absolutely no luck. Look at these last couple of games, and then he goes off injured. I know it's precaution all with head injuries, and then the tackle the week before as well. But he came straight back on the following week. So, where the key ones are going to come.
Psychological with these fellas, They feel something small, and you wouldn't see when even 10 years ago players going off as much as they do nowadays. Not just Liverpool players, just in general.
Yeah, no, you're dead right.
It seems to be there's more chance of them crying off a game than actually knuckling down and playing through the pain barriers. You know what I mean? And they're on savage money.
There's lads hobbling off the pitch and they haven't even been fouled.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
So Pro Park there for half an hour and see how they get on.
But
Can you imagine trying to get a bleeding Danny Agger or a Martin Skirtle off the pitch?
And Agger was injured more than he wasn't injured, and he still got on with it.
Yeah.
And Skirtle only picked up a bad injury there the other day, didn't he? He's after doing an ACL or something like that, isn't he himself?
As well, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, Ryan, where do you think the key battles are on the pitch in terms of look at your forward line matching up against our defence? I know it's hard to call it at the moment, but let's go with Fabinho and then one of three, I suppose.
Fabinho, he's one of them players where he's sort of unpredictable, isn't he? He has some smashing games, but there's other games he's just poor. I know Rasher running at him.
No, in fairness, he's an auxiliary centre back. He's filling the gap,
Yeah, definitely.
To be honest with you, we lost Van Dijk, but we also lost Fabinho because Fabinho was in the middle and he was breaking everything up and protecting the back four. Now he's in the back four and there's no one there to do Fabinho's job.
Protect the back four, yeah.
And that's where we're really missing in the middle is someone who's going to take a yellow card, someone who's going to do a fair, upend someone if need to be.
Me and Peter spoke about that on a previous episode where we were saying, why doesn't Klopp just play his centre backs and have Fabinho sitting just in front, because we're badly missing him in midfield in terms of that cutting edge. And I actually think that's where a lot of our problems are stemming from.
We're being walked through in the midfield every week. West Brom were walking through us.
Yeah.
Newcastle not even attacking, they were walking through us. It's really bad to watch.
Look back, even the CDM position has been one that's been very underappreciated for years. Even look back when we had Lucas back years ago. He was very underappreciated, but when he wasn't in the team,
yellow for you, he was he was well able to upend someone when needs be. He wasn't the most gifted footballer technically, but he was a great pro. He was 100% every week you were getting out of him.
But you see, that's the problem, isn't it? You don't have footballers like that anymore, do you?
No.
It's more worry. I think me and Niall spoke about this on a show a couple of weeks ago. A lot of them just seem to be more concerned in what's in their paycheck at the end of the week. You know what I mean? They're earning $400-500 a week. Why would they go out and get smashed up? Look at
for a team they don't have any connection to either.
There's no you look at certain teams now. Liverpool have obviously using Liverpool United as this example. They have homegrown players there that would give everything for the club. You look at Trent, then you look at the likes of Rashford and stuff like that. They'll give 100% for the club. Then there's other players who'll lie in the ground for 90 minutes or just won't bother playing. Like you said there earlier on, Darren, about Salah. Does he want to be there? That's the thing.
He's the most lackadaisical fella you'll ever see, but he'll score 2 goals and then you know what I mean.
And then he has to hump when things don't go his way.
Yeah, and he won't. You're looking at him.
Last year, everyone was calling him the most selfish player on the team. This year, we can't get him to shoot the last couple of games.
I think that's playing on his mind though as well. He should just go what he was doing, scoring goals, and don't worry about assists. Assists won't win you Premier Leagues, He's all in there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we hear it. Obviously these players, they hear things that's spoken about on social media and everything. You know what I mean? They can't get away from it. It's not like they can lock themselves away. And you can see it with the form of some players in the Premiership when they go in on social media, people go in on them. They take it to heart. I mean, we only spoke the other night. We did an Arsenal London podcast, and it was what's happened to Willian? You know what I mean? Like, he must be listening to it now. His form is just destroyed. He's not even looked like a footballer.
That he's probably think to himself, I'm set up for life here. This is only one last hurrah for him, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's 33, 34. He doesn't care really, but he just cares about it.
And he had a great start to the season.
Yeah, he did actually.
Yeah, very good start.
He just didn't want to move out of London. That's the reason he went across Arsenal.
Yeah, he's comfortable. That's what it is. He's comfortable where he is.
Yeah. Mark, what's your thinking on the key matchups coming up this Sunday? I mean, it's really, when you think about it, it's really your front 3 or 4 versus our front 3 or 4. Because both defences have been slightly ropey, although United's is much better when Boy's in the team because they play a much stronger line with better powers of recovery. But where do you think the key battles are won and lost in this match come Sunday?
I think an interesting selection be, we all know that Pogba and Fernandes be in the middle, but who will be playing, sitting in front of the back 4? Would it be McTominay? Would it be Matic? Or would it be Fred? Fred's very good at breaking up play against the likes of Salah's and Mane's and stuff like that. Matic probably isn't as pacey as him, so I'd say that'd be an interesting choice to see who he plays, because obviously we need all the protection we can in front with Harry Maguire playing against whoever Liverpool starts, you know what I mean?
I think the one thing we're all guaranteed is that Van de Beek is not going to be starting.
No.
I mean, that situation
for Ajax at the weekend.
That's it.
Isn't that the craziest situation you've ever seen? 40-50 million quid player, and
they just bought him because no one else could buy him, and now they don't know what to do with him. You know?
Well, he came in on the back of Van der Sar and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So he was a
footballer. He is. There's no doubt about that. For whatever reason, he's not
came through the Ajax academy. You're a decent player, hands down.
Yeah, and when he was playing against them, when he was playing against Tottenham that time and that run they had in the Champions League, he was outstanding. You know what I mean? Like, it was so strange.
In that Champions League run by a mile, like, he was probably the one player you would say is going to move on here. You know?
Yeah. Now he's sitting in the stand looking like a groundsman. It's crazy.
He's starting to actually play. Whereas I think Pogba's playing, I don't know what the lads think. He had a cracking game there last week against Burnley, but I think Pogba's playing to put himself in the shop window.
100%.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, that was what was said after that game, wasn't it? He's trying to put a price tag on himself again.
Yeah, putting himself in the shop window, yeah. So in terms of, I mean, how do we see it sort of panning out? Is this going to be like are both teams going to go for this? Is it going to be very cagey? Is it going to be...
We have to go for it. There's no...
Yeah. I agree with Darren there, 100%. I think Liverpool have to go for it.
We have to be at it from the front foot from the start and trying to get the first goal. That's going to be crucial. There's no point sitting back for us, you know. This is a massive game where we need to show that, you know, we're going to be able to turn this around. And to be honest, at the moment, I can't see where the win is going to come from on Sunday, much as it pains me to say, you know.
Well, the onus is really on us because we're the home team. So, like, we have to go out there and...
We're the ones with it all to prove. United have been fantastic since, I think, the Arsenal game was a turning point for them, you know.
Yeah.
But look at it this way. Like, I think we need to stop worrying about our defence for this game. Like you said, we need to go for it and just back to the old ways when it was Suarez and Sturridge up front. We're just going to score more goals than you. We don't like, forget about defence. We're just going to score more goals than you.
Yeah. And in terms of the two boys, Ryan, what do you think? What way are you saying it panning out on Sunday?
I don't know, to be honest. Is it going to be... It does, a lot of it does come down to the lineups, because obviously there's the worries of injuries in both camps. There was a story I read this morning about 3 or 4 United players possibly not playing. But I think if United start well, I think Maguire, has definitely lifted it since me and you last spoke. Boy, if he can play, that'd be great. He's been solid as a rock. Then the question was, Mark said, about who did he put there? Did he put Fred? Did he put McTominay? Both of them playing really well at the moment. I was well impressed with McTominay last week playing as captain. I think he put on a great show. It was obviously he was going to get dropped the next game, I think, but you can probably put Donny out of the picture. What I was trying to say a few minutes ago as well about Rashford, he's not playing to his standard at the moment where he's banging in goals and assists, but if you look back at these highlights in the last few games, he's cutting through midfielders and the defenders like there's no tomorrow. And I think that could cause
happen like that.
Yeah, I think that could cause Liverpool an awful lot of problems, because if he plays him on the left and he cuts through like he was the other night,
it's hard to Trent Alexander-Arnold there, guaranteed.
He was not on his best form. Let's be honest. Like he lost the ball 76 times. Was it
78? I think it was
38. Sorry, in 76 minutes, something like that. And I think he should target. They're obviously teammates.
But you're going to have another centre half then on Trent's side as well, who isn't a regular centre half most likely.
So that is another big question. What side is he going to start on?
Personally.
So it depends what side he puts him on, but I can definitely see, for once in a long time, I can see it being a very decent game, because there's a lot to play for on both sides. It's not as if it's this time last year, Liverpool are 20 points ahead of us and we're scraping top four. We could put 6 points ahead of us and then puts a bit of break between us and City as well, and it keeps us in it. I'm not saying we're going to go on to win the league, but we're definitely on form. There's definitely good team spirit there, and I think if he picks the team right and it sets out right, I definitely think we can get a result. Although Anfield's been a fortress, but I think
Solskjaer deserves serious credit. Like, again,
100%. I agree with you there.
75% of United's fans were calling for him to get out not too long ago, and he stuck to his guns. He stuck to the players that he trusts, and he's getting the.
I mean, if you go back 8 weeks ago, I mean, it was 80% Ollie out.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I mean, the guys were languishing down in either 13th or 10th, and then he put this run together. But he put the run together at a great time as well, where everyone else around us just started faltering. Chelsea fell off the map. Arsenal were already down there. We just started. Spurs, I mean, even look at Spurs like last night, even
dropping City points.
Yeah, City even dropping points.
Team leaking goals.
Yeah, the one thing I would say about this season, and I mean, obviously as Liverpool fans, we want to win on Sunday and obviously claw that top position back and the 3 points. But being 6 points ahead this season with COVID and no fans and the haphazard way of it working, it's not that big a deal. You know what I mean? It's in terms of, like if this was, Fergie's era and you were 6 points ahead, most people would be saying, well, that's it, league done. You know what I mean? Like, because the claw 6 points back off that team and that manager is a big deal. But like, we do always feel that there is a kind of a dodgy result around the corner for United, or a bad decision, or Maguire potentially doing something silly, in the middle of a game or something like that. You know what I mean? So 6 points is it's not insurmountable.
Look at Fulham, Niall. Fulham were down and out there not too long ago. Now they've got it together and they're well able to compete, Yeah. So they're not the whipping boys anymore. That's only one example of it. There's some crazy results this season, That's another draw for Liverpool. Fulham away, another disgraceful performance.
Yeah. I think though, I think on some of those performances as well, in parts of the game, we looked a bit flat and a bit tired, but in parts of the game, there was shades of what we could do when we get our head around it. I think our finishing at the front is troubling at the moment. I think the guys are thinking too much about it and they're trying to pass the ball into the net. I think on Sunday, they should just play their game, let fly. There's always a 20-yarder in Salah's locker without a shadow of a doubt. And you know something? I'd be really testing the resolve of David De Gea, because when you do go in on him and you do try and do things, he has looked a bit suspect, although his form recently has been good. But I mean, they haven't really, like if you even look at that Burnley game, when Burnley started passing through them and really trying to put it on, they did expose some of those frailties in United that are still there in their underbelly. I mean, Burnley, I would have thought the other night, Burnley, looking at the game, that they were full value for a draw if it had happened. Yeah. Absolutely. I thought they played brilliant football, especially in the first half. They were outstanding. And they could have
a hard team to play against.
Yeah, and it's a horrible place to go to as well.
They bring it down to their level, don't they?
But they do. They just play that really physical game with you. They don't let you through. You can see at some stages, they had 8 or 9 men behind the ball. And you're thinking to yourself, where the fuck's this goal going to come from? Yeah. You know what I mean?
Mark. Steve Bruce is trying to do at Newcastle, only he's just not getting it right. Trying to be horrible to play against,
Mark, what are you thinking? You're after going top of the table there now. Do you think the team, clearly they don't have the experience, but do you think the team potentially has the mentality, to be able to deal with being top of the table? I mean, it's like, it's like a dog race where Trap 6 jumps out of the traps and he's leading off the first bend. Do you really think United can, have the mentality and the strength to be able to face that down?
Only time will tell, because we haven't been in this position in a long time, you know. Obviously, the likes of Greenwood and Rashford are still young enough that, you know, they probably can't remember when we were the team we were in the 90s and stuff like that. So there's a different mentality there. But I think Fernandez has brought a good winning mentality with him. I know we keep mentioning him and stuff like that, but you can see the passion and the desire that he has that a few of our other players don't have. Like, do you know what I mean? And you can't buy that. You're born with that. And like I said, to be honest, going back to Sunday's game, I'd probably start Greenwood ahead of Martial, to be honest with you. Let him run at your back four or whatever he's play. Like I said, Martial, he hasn't been scoring, but he hasn't been assisting. Or, you know, like Ryan was saying, at least Rashford is making a nuisance of himself, getting in good positions and stuff like that. Martial isn't. He's giving away the ball a lot. So I'd start Greenwood. He's no fear. He'll run at Trent or Robertson, you know, the other side. So I'd probably start him ahead, and probably he'll play Cavani in the middle, maybe, you know.
That's a big call, isn't it? Be a big call for Solskjaer to make.
I think Martial is injured, I was reading today. He pulled up with a hamstring.
Yeah, there's injury worries between Martial, Boyle and someone else. I was reading it this morning, but you just don't know, because these could be all false.
Matic, I think.
Matic, yeah. But Matic, to be honest, I wouldn't. If he was injured, fair enough. I mean, there's gaps there that can be filled by players on the bench, you know.
Well, history this season would show that Solskjaer, when it comes to injury updates, is a proper spoofer. So I wouldn't be believing any of that.
Mind games, you know.
Yeah. I wouldn't be believing any of
nothing for my fancy football here.
Yeah. Peter, what you're thinking? How do you see this going? You know what I mean, in terms of both teams?
Well, I'm thinking of just going back to your point there about the lads taking too much time from the goal and thinking about it too much. I think you have to go back to what Shankly said back in the day. If you have the ball in front of the goal and you're not sure what to do with it, put it in the net and we'll talk about it later. Yes. And I think they just need to get that mentality back into them. I think, like I said, we need to not worry about defence for this one and just go at them. We might concede 1 or 2, but if we score 4 or 5, then all good. Because we need to claw back them 3 points and keep the pressure on United and make them be chasing us rather than the other way around. And if we lift at the week,
go ahead, Jet.
Null and void the league.
Yeah,
I tell you, shows around this year, mind, is there? That's a mad coincidence, isn't it?
I tell you, if there was ever a game crying out for Diogo Jota,
yeah,
you know what I mean. I mean, if I could get pretty excited now on Sunday with an hour to go if I find his name is on the team sheet. You know what I mean?
Now,
man, I'm sounding like Solskjaer. But I tell you, you know, it's just he's an exciting player. Came in, he was absolutely unbelievable for us. You know what I mean? Yeah. And if there's ever a guy that knows exactly where the goal is and where to put the ball, he's that man. You know what I mean? It's but yeah, like he'd be a huge influence. I'd be saying a few Hail Marys now over the next 4 days that maybe he comes through. The talk is he might be there or thereabouts. That's what I heard. But I mean, again,
more chance than Van de Beek anyway.
Well, the thing about Jota, like, you'd nearly play a half-fit Jota, wouldn't you, at this stage? You know what I mean? Like, it's just
anyone at this stage.
Yeah, because, you know, even if he doesn't score himself, he'll probably set up one of the front three for some sort of a tap in that they won't actually miss and will have a go. You know what I mean? So, Mark, how do you feel about Harry Maguire matching up against the front three? What you thinking on that?
Not very good. No, in fairness, with Boye beside him, he looks a bit more solid than Lindelof. I think him and Lindelof together, they're more prone to mistakes, to be honest with you. So hopefully Boye is fit. If he isn't, even Tunzabe could be an option, to be honest, because he's looked solid when he's come in the few times we've asked of him. But Maguire, he hasn't got that turn of pace, you know, and if you have Salah or Mane running at you, you worry about it, you know.
There's a nervousness about him, isn't there? He portrays that kind of nervousness. Like, if you compare him to, say, Van Dijk is cool, calm, collected, you know, just sort of gets on with his job, barely breaks a sweat. Maguire looks like he's in a pool of sweat from minute one, you know. He's just nervous as hell, and like, he's probably reading what's in the media and on social media about him, that he's an absolute car crash, you know what I mean? So I'd imagine his confidence is just shot to bits.
The most expensive defender in the the world needs someone babysitting him beside him. You know what I mean? He should be the one taking the game with the scruff of the neck and, partnering the likes of Lindelof. No, you shouldn't be waiting on Boy to come in and, help him through a game. He's cost 75 million, this fella, you know what I mean? It's
But the only reason he done that is he had a few good seasons with Leicester, and because he's an English centre half, do you know what I mean? They put mad money, and then the media jumps on it, and but he's not worth it. He's an expensive Phil Jones. That's all he is,
slightly better than Phil, I think.
A little bit.
His service there.
An expensive, what's his name, Chris Smalling.
Chris, slightly better.
A little bit.
But certainly they're going to be the decisions that have to be made, aren't they? Really, when these lineups come out, it's an intriguing fixture as well because there is injuries, and
Klopp hasn't mentioned.
Yeah, but it's you have to take it for what it is. You know what I mean? Like we have had an awful lot of injuries and stuff like that, but a team of our standard, we're the mentality monsters, we're the champions. We should be able to go out that like we shouldn't be talking about those things when we're talking about Fulham, Newcastle, West Brom, or Southampton. Whatever about if Man City put us to the sword, or Chelsea, or United, or something like that, then you go right. It's not our first team, really. You know what I mean in terms of that. But against those teams, I mean, Nat Phillips and Reece Williams should have more than enough even for those teams. You know what I mean? They're alone.
I'd start Phillips personally now. I'll come back to that on Sunday. I think Phillips will be the choice for me. He likes to head the ball. He's physical. If Cavani plays, he'll go up against him. You know what I mean? Reece Williams still looks a bit green to me now. Phillips has looked the better of the two for me.
And probably against Maguire as well on set pieces. Yeah. He'd be crucial for that, you know what I mean? Because that's it.
He's physical, he can get up and get in.
And he's a big lad. He's a big lad. Yeah.
We haven't mentioned who I think we should start. Shaqiri. The man loves playing against United.
Where does he come in though, Peter? Who do you drop from?
Salah.
Yeah.
Salah needs some time on the bench.
Call.
You could almost be certain if you started Shaqiri over Salah be on his way out the door the following week. That's a fact.
I think he might be on the way out in the summer personally myself, but he's doing nothing to justify his place in the 11 now. So
all because if we're to believe what went on in the media, all because he didn't get the captain's armband for a nothing Champions League game.
Michelin, yeah.
Yeah.
He also got upset at the penalty taker decision, didn't he, in terms of the golden boot?
He seems to get upset over little things all the time.
Yeah.
Bit of a diva, I think.
It's all ego, and that's what it is with the players nowadays. Can you imagine Gerrard or even Carragher or anyone going on like that back in the day? Yeah. Forget about it, He tends to celebrate his own goals more than the team's goals as well, if you notice that.
If you're missing a Carragher or a Gerrard, they put his arm around them in a headlock and say, look, there's nobody there to hook him up. So he kind of has free rein there. He knows he's going to score 25 goals a season, so who's going to question him, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I couldn't see Klopp making that decision. I think we will see Shaqiri in the game.
Absolutely.
But
impact.
Yeah, and again, as I said, I'm praying for Jota. What about the two goalkeepers? I mean, De Gea seems to have come into a bit of form and seems to be doing well, especially as you said when you have Boy at the back and stuff like that. But Alisson has been a tad bit ropey. His footwork doesn't seem to have been what it used to be or something like that. And I was even watching a couple of matches there, and Ben, the young lad, he turned around and he said he thought that Alisson, he might not be actually fit. He might be lacking a bit of fitness or a bit of sharpness or something like that.
That game sharpness, maybe.
Yeah. When you have a different back four in front of you every week, it's hard to get that confidence, to pick a pass when the ball goes.
Yeah.
I'd say.
Totally agree there.
You don't know who's there, you know what I mean? It's just, you don't know who's in front of you week in, week out. You don't have that bond with them,
Yeah.
The best of Alisson when Van Dijk's in front of us. Alisson,
yeah, exactly.
He
knows what's what.
Each other, yeah.
But that's the same with De Gea. Sure, look at all the press De Gea took for the last 2 seasons or so. Yeah, but look what was playing in front of him. How could you be confident with some of the teams that were playing in front of him?
And then De Gea right through him. In fairness, though, but that was probably...
he did have some bad games. Don't get me wrong. Every great player does. And De Gea, what has he done for us in the 6 years that he was brilliant? You know what I mean?
Smashing keeper.
he was a smashing keeper. And then you have players in front of him that, shouldn't be playing at that level as such, that a great Manchester United squad used to have. But De Gea used to always seem to get the backlash of it all. You know what I mean? Even down to the likes of Keano and all in the punditry.
I never forget watching this against Arsenal a couple of seasons ago, and he made about 15 world-class saves, and that's no exaggeration. In one game, he was like, I
remember that was the one with the double save. He was smashing.
So it's in him, like.
Well, I
think everyone knows it's in him,
Well, I think with 100%. Henderson coming in as well, it's going to give him a kick up the arse, that he has to be consistent as well. Because remember the free kick against Everton this year, his position was always brutal. Henderson came in the next game, albeit it was a League Cup game, but I think that's giving him a bit of a kick up the arse that he needs as well,
What about Sergio Romero, lads? What about him?
He got a raw deal, man. He was a fantastic keeper. But just, I hope he goes and gets first team football somewhere because he deserves it,
He spoke out about Solskjaer and all, didn't he? And I think then he was kind of calmed. And I think it shows, we all think of Solskjaer as being the baby-faced assassin, the nice guy, the smiley, happy guy. But there's a ruthlessness to him. You can see it with Van der Beek.
Even in interview now, if you look at the interviews, and he seems that bit more steely. He's not the village idiot as such anymore. He's well able to hold himself and give it back now, which is obviously contributing.
Well, that's what the United fans are crying out for, because he just came across too nice of a guy to take over the job at United. A team that wins leagues.
He had the job himself. He couldn't believe it.
Yeah. Well, now you can see
he was afraid to park in the manager's parking spot because he's seen it as Fergie's spot. He's obviously copped on since then,
But you can see there is ruthlessness in him now, and you can obviously there's with some of the team selections, he's obviously not taking any bullshit back in the training ground or at and off the lads, because at the start he was kind of letting the players dictate what was going on with the team, kind of like the Mourinho era when the likes of Pogba and all were trying to dictate what was going on. But now you can see it that he definitely has a backbone in him now. And Keano was right when he said it about a year ago, that give him a year and see what happens then, and look where he is now. And he deserves an awful lot of credit, personally, I think, not just from a United point of view, but I think from where he's taken that team from. Is it a world-class team? No, I don't think so. But we're sitting top of the Premiership going into the biggest game of the season on Sunday at the halfway point. So this game is huge, and it's going to definitely show character from the manager and from the players. So he definitely deserves an awful lot of credit, if you ask me.
Speaking of Keano there, someone might need to resuscitate him on Sunday if this is to be believed, that there's meant to be a banner on the Kop applauding Marcus Rashford for what he's doing with feeding the starving kids.
Yeah,
Keano was going to have a shit fit when he hears this.
Yeah. I saw there was a couple of nasty comments on I was reading the forum last night, a few nasty comments about it.
That's not to say now that Rashford doesn't deserve the plaudits. I think he's a great role model, but I think that could be one step too far for the purists now.
Yeah, could be, yeah, because I saw a few nasty comments going towards Rashford last night. A few of the fans not happy at all. But now, in fairness, Klopp did say that he hopes when United play at Anfield, we can thank him in some way, and I think he deserves it. Forget football for a minute. What he's done is just been. Yeah, well, Niall, I don't know what you think of it, Niall, but
I think the work he's done is outstanding, really. You know what I mean? And
I don't think that's for debate. I think we all agree on that.
Yeah,
100%.
But there's no way in any guise or form we'd be putting a United player banner on the hollow ground of the Kop. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Give him a page in the programme, throw him a few bob if you want towards what he's doing.
Absolutely,
whatever you want to do. But like we're shooting ourselves in the foot here. We're putting our hand out to be slapped here. But, like,
respect.
Yeah, by putting this lad, unless we're looking to sign him.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah,
that'll never happen.
I want to see of Marcus Rashford in the Kop is the shots all Sunday. That's it. It's the only thing I want to see near the Kop.
Or him having been elbowed into it.
And when you say ball into the Kop, the Kop end, not the goal at the Kop end.
I'm quite happy with the goal.
I don't care. Just keep it away from the net.
Talk to me, lads, about the influence on the game coming up in terms of Trent and Robbo, Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Luke Shaw. What's your feeling on those kind of matchups? Obviously, our two boys are kind of well out of form at the moment. Aaron
so
Wan.
Robertson. I think Robertson is still showing enough for me to just, to say that he's still on the ball, but Brent's gone completely off the ball.
I was looking at him. I was looking at Robbo in the Southampton game, and there was a frustrated petulance about him in his play.
You got silly booking, if memory serves me.
Yeah, he just went in and kicked your man really for no reason out of pure frustration in his own form. Yeah, but it wasn't that. I think he'd been sort of carved inside out a few times down that side, and it was more frustration than anything.
Well, I think you see him getting frustrated with the performances. I think Andy Robertson is unlucky to team with Henderson and Van Dijk, because without them two, he'd be captain. Like, he shows that passion.
Yeah, I agree. I think Robertson's world class. From a United point of view, I think he's excellent. Yeah. Serious. And I think it's the same against Trent, but Trent, the performance isn't there with Trent at the moment. That's the problem.
No.
And I think that could benefit us big time on Sunday. So
yeah, well, I mean, it wouldn't be the first time that United targeted Trent in a match anyway. I mean, that goes without saying that's going to happen. That's why I think you could potentially see a Fabinho switch there to that side. As you said, Darren, putting Nat Phillips on the other side, he'd be big enough, because that's kind of where Maguire kind of loiters for set pieces. It's kind of around that Fabinho area. So I think that could happen. I think Trent needs a bit of protection. But again, what I'd say is, if we, the narrative is on us to go out there and attack and, put United to the sword. So if we're doing our job properly and we're doing what we should be doing, we shouldn't be worrying about those things. Those things should just take care of themselves, even though more often than not they don't. But I think the two boys would be disappointed in their form this year. Their stats are nowhere near where they would expect themselves to be, and they'd be the biggest sort of pundits of themselves, really critical of themselves in terms of their performances. Like you're saying, Trent coming off there the other day against Southampton, he wasn't happy in himself either. You know what I mean? It's not like he was shocked coming off or something like that. You know what I mean?
No. No, he obviously is. Like you said there, the stats don't lie in situations like this. And, they both got accolades for what they've done over the last couple of seasons, and well deserved. But there seems to be a shadow of Trent there at the moment. And Robbo's probably at 70%, 75%. He's not quite at 100 just yet. But you never know, Sunday might be the day where he has a man of the match performance. But we're looking at our lads, you look at Shaw, Wan-Bissaka. I think Wan-Bissaka is absolutely quality. I think he has great attributes about him. The only thing he needs to get sorted is them balls going into the box when he's running up the wing. But if you look at him the other night, he ran and ran and ran for 90 minutes, did not stop, jumped into every tackle, won every ball. And that is the only thing that's letting down, is the balls into the box. Other than that, he's been absolutely one-on-one. He's one of the best in the world, hands down. He's absolutely phenomenal.
And even the other night when Burnley doubled up on him, he was able to handle it somewhat. You know what I mean? Like,
he's just so patient. No, that's the thing. He stands back, he sees what's what, goes in, gets the ball. And I think it was actually Carragher that was highlighting one night about his one-on-one play and everything else. I think he's been absolutely excellent. And I think lads will struggle running that on Sunday. I think Solskjaer should be cute down, getting play at the back, and that's it. Don't have him running up and down the wing, because that's where he could get caught.
I think he will play a bit more defensive than recent times. I don't think he's a part of the bus, but I think he's a try catch on the counter. Which, I think early in the game, Liverpool need two things to happen. I'd say we need Robertson to absolutely thump someone in a challenge, just to let them know he's there from early. And I think we need a goal before halfway through the first half, because otherwise the nerves will set in and the players will start to question, and that's where United are going to pounce.
I think we have to be careful with that referee as well. I don't want any players going in and thumping anyone in challenges, because I tell you, this referee likes a deck of cards, and he also likes to hand out pens and stuff like that. So we need to be on our game. What about Luke Shaw, lads? I mean, Luke Shaw's outstanding footballer. And again, when you talk about the captaincy, I mean, it's not dissimilar to Robbo, really, is it? I mean, he could easily be a captain for Man United, couldn't he, Luke Shaw? Is his form.
Is it just me, or does everyone think he gets a raw deal?
Yeah, Mourinho broke him in half nearly, effectively bullying him for a spell.
Yeah. When you look at it, he came back from a broken leg. Everyone kept going on about his fitness. He's proved everyone wrong. He runs up and down that wing. He gets his crossing has improved 100% over the last 2 seasons. Definitely. When you look at it, his ground passing has improved. And obviously Tellez coming in. I've only seen Tellez a handful of times properly, but he looks quality as well. So he might get a run for his money at some stage, but Shaw will be keeping him out of the team, I'd say, for a while now, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at Luke Shaw as well, he's another one of those players. He reminds me a bit like Damien Duff, where after 5 minutes he looks like he's wrecked, but he has fitness in barrel loads. Like he'll never let you down. He'll run to the 90th minute or longer, but he always looks wrecked after 10 minutes. But yet the pace of him and the speed, and even his strength, like his strength is unbelievable even on the ball. Like you don't see too many lads pushing him off the ball either. Yeah. You don't see him giving balls away cheap either, you know what I mean?
He always looks like he's carrying a bit of extra timber, but he's still... I think that's just the way he's built, you know.
It is just. He's
like
kind of like Shaqiri, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. Brian Kerr said about Shaqiri, he doesn't have the body of a footballer, like, you know.
But he can play ball. There's no doubt about it. Yeah. And he'll give 100% every game. Like you said there, Niall, he looks like he's knackered after 5 or 10 minutes, but he'll run for 90 minutes plus.
Yeah, I think that's right what you said. I think Mourinho ruined the public perception of Shaw for so long, and he's only starting to build it back over.
He probably ruined Shaw as well mentally.
Yeah,
that's not easy, you know.
Yeah,
no, not when your manager's coming out and slating you.
No, publicly slaughtering.
Yeah, exactly. Not just in the office when you're going to the press and saying this and that. Like then you know there's a problem. You think you start doubting yourself, and that's exactly what happens. And that's what the difference is now between the modern generation. Is there was no social media back then. There is now, and players feed into that. And Keano and Carragher and Neville are all right. They should just all knock that on their heads, leave that to their agents or their manager or whoever, their family, and just get on with playing football. You're paid enough to play football, and that's what you're being paid for, not to float around on social media. End of story.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I suppose we've spoke about it in previous episodes. Most of these players now have become a brand. I think we mentioned it, Mark, on the last podcast as well. They've really become a brand now, as opposed to like, you know, just a player, if you like, you know what I mean? So they're an advertising tool for all these different brands as well. So there's a demand on them there off the pitch, which is equally as big as on the pitch, you know what I mean? Because the whole football environment has changed, really, you know. So
now the people behind all the players as well, like their agents and, like you say, all the advertising and all, it's gone ridiculous. Like I remember speaking to Graham Kavanagh a few years ago, and he was telling me when he was playing with Stoke, he used to go to the local sports shop to buy his boots, like, do you know what I mean? Yeah. And now the amount of money behind all these players is ridiculous. And you go back to that point Darren and all mentioned earlier, that's why they're going down on the ground. They're protecting, a brand, and that's it.
Yeah. And those Stoke players are still going to the local shop to buy boots. Yeah. Don't worry about that. That's not a bad thing, you know.
That's it. That's it.
So taking all that information into account, this is the time in the podcast where you guys have to pony up and tell us your prediction, and live by it come Sunday when we go in hard. So, Peter, you go first. Give us your prediction.
I'm going to go 2-1 Liverpool. I think this is the match we need. I don't think it's going to be tight. It's not going to be a big scoreline. I think we'll get the early goal, and I think United will take us back, but I think they'll go right to the end. Fernandez will fall down looking for a penalty. The ref will say no, and we'll catch on the counter.
Do you know, I could live with that. Mark, what do you reckon?
I'm going United 2-1 and a standard Bruno Fernandes penalty at some stage.
89th minute probably, yeah. For the winner.
After the game over.
Ryan?
I'm going to go with Mark as well. I'm going to go 2-1 United. I'm going to go Rashford first goal. Break is down lovely then to assist Greenwood for the second. Jeez. You can have to go wherever you want.
The main man Cavani not getting a shout at all at the moment. He's been instrumental.
I don't know. It's hard to tell if he's going to start, isn't it, though? You know what I mean? That's the problem.
Yeah, super. Darren, come on, chime in here. Tell me where you're going with this one.
I'm going to say 3-1 Liverpool. I think we just it's a game we need to go. We need to go and make a statement in. And, I mean, if you can't raise yourself for United, well, forget about it. Throw your hat at it. So I'm going to stick with 3-1 Liverpool.
Now, I would normally go the same as you, but every time I talk up these games, they just don't happen. So I'm hoping that it's going to go 3-1 or be a high-scoring game. I'm going to go for a pessimistic, boring 1-1 draw.
You could be dead right.
That's what I'm going with. I'm thinking United are going to be nervous to hold on to the top of the table, and I think Liverpool are going to be nervous about that 6 points expanding, if you like. And I think both teams are going to be very nervous, and I think we're going to see, especially in the first half, I think you're going to see a kind of a tactical chess game. And then I think in the second half, it'll open up somewhat. I think we'll take the lead. But what's happened so many times this season, more often than not, we surrender it as well. So I'm going to go with a pessimistic 1-1 draw.
Jeez, Niall, you're taking my spot. I'm usually the draw.
And listen, and I hope I'm totally wrong.
But once it's not a nil-all draw, that's the main thing.
Yeah, at least we get a couple of goals anyway, even if we have to share them, you know.
Yeah.
So listen, lads, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to the four of you. We're going to be doing this more often, obviously. So for me, Niall Hogan, for Darren, all
Thanks for
set.
having me, Niall.
Ryan,
Again, I'm sure.
all good. Mark, pleasure
Cheers,
again.
lads. Cheers, lads.
And my sidekick, the man on the show here, Peter Hart. Thanks a million, guys, for having you on. Brilliant stuff.